Hello, I'm Phobia, and welcome to my channel. Today's story is about a person named Ali. He's a 28-year-old guy who loves nature and rural areas. Ali says, "In 2012, I wanted to go alone to a farm near our house. There was also a beautiful river nearby, so I thought this place would be the best spot for me to relax away from the noise of people. Anyway, I seized the opportunity and spent the rest of the day there. When I wanted to return, I thought to myself, why not walk down the valley towards home? But the problem arose when I reached the edge of the valley and saw my reflection on it, and I began to feel a strong numbness in my body. Then I started feeling a strong urge to sleep accompanied by a strong headache, and at that moment, I involuntarily succumbed to sleep in that valley, completely powerless. I slept as if I had no will, but what I was sure of is that it was very late. I hurriedly got up to find my clothes very dirty from the soil. My body was full of scratches and wounds, which I didn't know the source of. What happened? I don't know. But at that moment I panicked when I remembered my family. Probably when I returned home late like this and in my condition, they'll surely scold me. I hurried towards the water and cleaned my clothes a little. Then I hurried back home, very afraid of my father, because he's very strict. I reached home and found my father waiting for me. He looked at me closely, then asked me a few questions, and changed the subject as if nothing had happened. What is important now is that everything went smoothly that night, and I didn't receive any scolding. But what I didn't realize at that moment was that my life would turn upside down after this incident. You could say everything changed, but in a positive way. I started noticing that anything I wanted from anyone, I could get it very easily. All of this was strange to me, especially since it became part of my daily routine, so there was no room for coincidence in the matter. I felt like there was an energy inside me that made anyone talking to me lose the ability to make decisions and find themselves agreeing to everything I say without any feeling from them. And often, after a day of agreeing with me, the person would come back to talk to me, surprised at how they agreed with me or how they even met my needs. How did he agree? Or how did he meet my needs? He doesn't know. And just to let you know, this happened for any request I made. Yet, here, I started to doubt the matter. All these things happening to me were somewhat strange, and I didn't suffer from them before. The biggest disaster, however, is that everyone around me, even my family, started to doubt me, as if I had some kind of veil over me or that I practiced sorcery, which led them to try to avoid me whenever they had the chance. The problem is that I'm far from matters of sorcery and charlatanism, and I don't approach them at all. My life continued like this for a long time, until the year 2018. My family decided to marry me after they found a suitable girl for me. Honestly, I agreed without hesitation as the girl exceeded my expectations, but on the same day, I gave my consent. I felt severe pain in my head. It reminded me of the same pain I experienced in the valley incident, and suddenly things escalated. I started hearing voices in my head, but they were in an incomprehensible language. I didn't know it, and I didn't understand its meaning. But after a few days, things returned to normal. And after 2 weeks, my family asked me again about the girl because they wanted to make sure. So I assured them that I agreed to her. Then they told me that the girl's family also asked the girl, and she agreed to the marriage. At that moment, I was honestly very happy. And shortly after, I officially proposed to her. And that night, I went up to my room to sleep, when I heard a clear voice saying, "I will burn them all." Honestly, I was scared, but I still didn't give much importance to the matter. I thought to myself that all this was probably just delusions. However, the surprise was that on the same night, there was a fire in my fiance's house, and her father got injured. If it wasn't for God's mercy, no one knows what would have happened to him. I was very surprised by the matter, but I ignored it. or honestly tried to ignore it. I didn't tell anyone about what I went through, neither about the voice I recently heard, nor even about the valley incident that I experienced. But on the same night, that voice came back again, and this time it said to me,
"Break up with her, or I will ruin your life."
And this time he repeated his words several times. However, despite all that, I ignored the voice and acted as if nothing had happened. Within 3 days, our house literally turned into hell. It became screams and quarrels for no reason at all, to the extent that my father ended up kicking me out of the house, and all my acquaintances from my family and friends whom I visited, their behavior towards me changed, and I found myself being rejected by them. It was as if everyone started to hate me for no reason. Literally, I had nowhere to go or any shoulder to lean on, so the only solution I had was to spend the night on the street. I was on the street for 2 days and finally returned home afterward. But there was the catastrophe, because the voice returned for the 3rd time, and I wish it hadn't. This time it was very clear and told me,
"Stay away from her, or I will kill your family this time."
The matter became clear now and scary for me. I think it's no longer just imagination. I couldn't remain silent about the matter anymore, so I hurried to my father and told him the whole story, from the valley incident to the voice I recently heard. I told him since it has reached the point of death threat, I won't be able to remain silent about it, and I fear something bad might happen. My father was shocked by the matter and thought about it for a moment, then said to me, "I think what you're saying is true, as the recent problems seem to me not natural at all. The problem is that they have no root cause." My father was convinced by my story and believed every word I said to him. And what happened that night is that my father started reciting the Quran to me, and by morning he took me with him to a sheikh who performed the exorcism. We narrated the whole event to him, and he asked us some questions which we answered. Then suddenly he started reciting the Quran to me. That was the last moment I remember, as when he started reciting, I felt dizzy and felt a tremendous pressure on my head, and I lost consciousness immediately. When I woke up, I found my family gathered around me, and they were afraid. They told me that as soon as I lost consciousness, I started talking to the sheikh in a scary voice, and I kept saying,
"I won't leave my husband. I won't leave."
And many other things. The sheikh said that I was touched by a jinn that is in love with me, and now I need to listen to the Quran daily, and it would be better if I could get married as soon as possible to accelerate the recovery. Indeed, I adhered to what the sheikh advised me until the end of 2018, and then I got married. At that time, I thought to myself that things were going well, but for 13 days I was surprised by something strange. I couldn't look at my wife. Yes, literally, I couldn't look at her. Every time I entered the room, I saw her in a terrifying shape, as if she was a hideous monster. And on the 14th day of our marriage, I decided that we would consummate our marriage that night. I said to myself, enough, even if I see my wife in that shape, I will enter the room. When I get back and entered our room, she wasn't in the room, so I was surprised. Where could she go when we were newly married? I went downstairs to ask my family since we live in the same house, so I asked them, "Where is my wife? Did you see her?" But they answered me with great astonishment. "Strange. Didn't you bring her yourself a while ago and take her to visit her family?" I was terrified, and only God knows my situation, because I haven't returned home until now, and I didn't take my wife. I no longer understand anything, and I feel like my mind is about to stop. And in a moment, my senses return to me, and I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed devil. And I hurried to talk to her family. At the moment I opened the room's door, I heard a voice I will never forget. It was the voice of a woman laughing provocatively, and she said to me,
"I got rid of her, and now I will save you from me as well."
And since then, the voice disappeared forever. At the same moment, I received a call from my wife's family. I wish it hadn't come. There. I heard the worst news of my life. My wife died due to an electric shock. The shock was enough at that moment to make me freeze in my place. I was completely helpless. I couldn't even bring myself to tell my family about it. And I remained in that state until daylight, till the news reached my family. And from that day, all the strange things that were happening to me disappeared, and along with them, my happiness also ended. And that brings us to the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed it and that it sent chills down your spine. If you did, don't forget to like the video and show your support by subscribing to the channel. And hey, don't keep the scare to yourself. Share this story with your friends so they can experience it too. Your support helps us bring you more terrifying tales like this one. Thank you for sticking around till the end. I'm Phobia, and I'll see you in the next story.